those of you that are out there, thank you for tuning in. If you haven't already, go ahead and like the video and share it, and continue to comment with us. I'm going to do a couple of speed round questions below.
Let's do that.
All right, so number 1. What's the worst thing you've ever forgiven someone for?
What's the worst thing
you've forgiven someone for?
Worst thing you forgiven someone?
Yeah, what's the worst thing you had to forgive somebody for?
That someone did to me?
Yeah.
Okay.
You personally.
Oh, man. I can't give details on it.
Okay.
But how can I say it without giving details?
Well, what's the second worst thing? Give us something that you had to forgive somebody for that cut you deeply, and then tell us how you went through that process.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to do the first.
Okay.
The worst one. So there was somebody I was talking to at the time, and a very close friend of mine, after, me and her, we broke up or whatever. There was a situation where this friend of mine I thought was a friend started talking to her, even though I was still, and then, so yeah, seeing that whole thing and seeing the passive attitude and the, whatever with you type thing, that tore me up, emotionally. I couldn't sleep. There were nights where I was contemplating, things to do, if you know what I mean. Like I'll go to jail type things.
Late night lows.
Yeah, like I'm gonna go to jail today.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was very difficult.
You wanted retaliation.
And yeah, and what I did was I honestly, bro, like I found myself throughout the week at the church praying for hours.
Oh wow.
Getting with God. Hours. I'm talking about 4 or 5 hours just in the church in prayer, 3 or 4 times a day or a week. That was probably one of the hardest seasons of my life, man.
Wow.
And then the Lord worked in me, and I got to see the person forgave and moved on, But that was like months and months of pain. And then how do I trust anybody else, I became suspect of everybody. It's like I'm not trusting anybody anymore. And then
yeah.
But anyway, I
you
would
can't
say
trust nobody with these girls nowadays anyway.
Yeah, that was a tough season.
That's tough, man. That's cool to hear that how you went about that, because it's not always gonna be the prettiest way. It's not always gonna be like the Jesus way of going about it.
No.
But to know that God's grace was still all in the mix.
It was all His grace.
It was all in the mix.
I was ready to go to jail, bro. I thought about, like, you know what? Serving 20 ain't that bad. I'm still young. I'll get out in my 40s.
You thought it was going to be 20. You would have probably got handed 40.
Hey, I was just thinking low. You know what I'm saying?
Right. But you're like, man, I might get a 10. All right. That's too early. Yeah. Second question. How has God's forgiveness towards you helped you with forgiveness towards others? And this is just in life in general, not towards that specific situation, but in what ways do you see the fruit of God forgiving you, and then you forgiving others? Yeah,
one of the fruits is not having excuses. Because there are times, So I have to forgive. And it's a decision you make, and it's a process, like our brother said. I've said that to people for years because I've experienced it myself. What's difficult is when you forgive, you have to decide now, is this someone that I want to hang with? That's where it gets tricky.
Right. How do you go forward with this after forgiveness?
Yeah, so like I said, forgiveness don't mean stupid, Forgiveness might mean I forgive you, but we ain't, we just can't chill like that anymore.
Yeah.
Which seems like you didn't forgive someone. But I learned that there's wisdom in that, because some people are just wired a certain way, or they do certain things, and it's like, well, I'm better off over here. You know, I love you. I care about you. I pray with you. I care for your well-being. But this is, you know, so yeah. So that's the difficult part of it. And
you know what I think of? And that's good. As you were talking, I was thinking about another tough situation in the scriptures where, like, how hard do you think it was for, like, David to have to forgive Saul? Because I always read those stories like, yo, David is like,
Saul threw a spear at him.
Yo, I'm thinking, like, going forward, I can forgive you, but I ain't rocking with you after that. Like, David was coming in there playing tunes for him afterwards.
Right. I think David loved Jonathan, of course. I think he had a love, you know.
He was married to his daughter.
Right. So I think David had a grace to love that family. Because even after, when he heard Saul died and someone was bragging about it, he had them killed. Like, so what was always at the forefront of David's mind when it came to Saul was that he was anointed.
Yeah.
So that always brought into mind God. What did God do? Well, he anointed him as king. So having God at the forefront, I think, helps you to deal with those that, man, like Saul, you know, do you dirty and always want. It was a weird thing with Saul, because even in the wilderness, when they interacted, when David showed him what he could have done to him, Saul's response to him was like, you know, weird.
Yeah.
It was just like, nah, you know.
That's
like,
why I said it had to have been a tough situation. That's what made me think of that. Like, imagine trying to forgive somebody like that.
Yeah, that's tough. Well, he was very toxic.
Yeah.
A very toxic type of person. So I would have wanted to chill in the wilderness and not be in the palace type thing. Nah, I'm good. I'll just wait to see what the Lord's going to do. I'd rather be out here where water's, you know, hard to find and with my boys, you know, like, but we're cool, you know, like, you stay over there, I stay over here, see what God does. And sometimes that's the case. That doesn't mean you didn't forgive. It just means you might have to use some wisdom, because there are some people that are toxic, period. You know, and some people, you know, somebody stole from you, you know, more than once, don't let them in your house.
Yeah.
Go out to eat with them at Starbucks where they can steal over there. They don't have to steal at your crib anymore. Like, you might have to do that.
That's smart.
You might have to do that. And that doesn't mean you didn't forgive. It just means you ain't dumb.
Yeah.
You know?
Got to move forward after forgiveness, and you got to move wise.
Yeah.
One more question. Have you ever in your life, in your Christian walk specifically, have you ever set a limit for how much or how far you'll forgive someone?
No.
Never.
Nope. I've wanted to. But no. I knew at the end of the day I had to forgive.
Yeah.
And more than just forgiving for my sake, for the gospel's sake.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Amen.